Hi, it's Tom from bkmnutrition.com, and today I want to talk about the 3 C's for effective long-term weight loss. Now, I talk a lot about what I call the ultimate problem, and the ultimate problem in regards to weight loss and why people can't lose weight for the long term is there's 3 issues. There's confusion about nutrition, so people don't know how many calories they need to eat, what foods to eat, when to eat, what type of diet to follow, which leads them then into the prison, which is, and you've heard me probably talk about prison diets before, which are restrictive. They ban you from eating certain foods, or you can only eat certain foods on a certain day, or foods are color coded or sinful or bad, whatever. There's all these restrictions in place, and then people go to those diets. They do them for a long time, and then they can't tolerate them after a little bit, so they exit the diet, or they lose the weight they want to lose and then exit the diet because they can't stand eating that food anymore, and then they go back to their normal diet, start eating the foods that they ate before the diet, and then they put all the weight back on again because they haven't built any systems, and this leads them to frustration where they gain all the weight back again. They're not sure why they've gained all the weight back again, but they do know that they still don't know what the right way to diet for them is, and that is a never-ending cycle. You see people do this all the time. It's like you see on Facebook, oh, I'm going back on Slimming World again, or oh, I'm back on the diet again, no more bad food for me, that sort of thing. But it's never ending. They go through this cycle again and again, losing weight, putting it back on, losing weight, putting it back on. And unfortunately, and researchers sort of back this up, is that people who do this for the long term generally tend to gain more weight in the long term because their compensation eating for losing weight is bigger. They gain the weight back again, and they keep going through the cycle. So people keep getting bigger and bigger, even though they are always on a diet, or seemingly always on a diet. And diet companies do know this, and they actually put things in place to make their diets addictive to you, and so you keep on doing them. And there was another video which is called Sneaky Ways That Diet Companies Trick You Into Paying Them but Not Losing Weight. That's on, I'll link this at the end of this video. So that's the problem. That's the ultimate problem people are facing. And the 3 C's, which I'm going to go into today, are where you need to be, what you need to be aiming for, and putting these things in place to make sure that you do lose weight for the long term. So the 3 C's are, as you can imagine, opposite to the ultimate problem. And so we have firstly clarity. So you know what you're doing, you know how many calories you need to eat, and you know what diet you need to follow. Then we have choice. So everything is your choice. There's no restriction, there's no prison. And then you have consistency. So you're doing those things over and over again. So I'm going to go briefly into the 3 C's on this video. It's actually quite a long topic. I do cover it in more depth in my book, and I will do some stuff on this video today so that you can get a good overview. But to talk about it would take probably an hour to 2 hours, and you'll probably switch off before then. So I want to give you a brief overview. By all means, ask me any questions in the comments below, and I'll get back to you. So firstly with clarity. So clarity is the root of the problem. Most people, when they start a diet, have no idea how many calories they need to be eating to lose weight. And unfortunately, most mainstream diet programs won't tell you this either. And I think, because I'm quite cynical, they hold this information back because if you did know how many calories you needed to lose weight, you would probably question the methods they're using in their programs to get you to lose weight on their terms. So if you know how many calories you need to lose weight, you can start constructing a plan for yourself, which then leads you into how many meals you need to have per day, how many calories you need to eat per meal. So you actually start to take control over your own life. Now, diet companies don't want you to do this. What they do want you to do is follow their little plan, so that you're always losing weight on their terms, which means at the end of the diet, you have to stay with them in order to be successful for the long term and keep paying them their money. They don't want you to learn yourself how to do it. So clarity is the big one, and this is what a lot of companies will withhold from you. So first, you need to know how many calories you need for weight loss. Now, that's really easy to do. I have a calorie calculator on my website, completely free. Just go to bkmnutrition.com/calculator. Put your details into there, your vital statistics, your activity levels for the day, and it will give you an estimated amount of calories you need to eat for weight loss, and it will also tell you an idea about the macros you need to eat, so how much protein, carbs and fat you need to eat to maintain that. And this will give you an idea about how to construct your diet for the day. So it's all right saying, oh, you need to eat this many calories to lose weight, but also you need to know what foods contain what calories. Again, this is something that diet companies tend to get mixed up, maybe deliberately. I wouldn't want to accuse anybody of everything, but if you have a food that says avocados are good for you, but Haribos are bad, and Haribos and avocado contain the same calories, and ultimately weight loss is determined by how many calories you eat in a day, there's something going on there that isn't right. Why keep that from the consumer? Why not tell them, oh, this much avocado is this many calories, this much Haribo is this many calories, you can have these, but here's the consequences of eating them. That would be a more informed choice. That would be a more towards clarity. But no, companies want to keep you in the confusion stage. So in order to understand how much calories are in food, we need to use some sort of app, at least in the short term, so you understand the implications of the food that you eat. Now, there are a few apps for this. MyFitnessPal is generally the one I tend to work with clients. The reason for this is that MyFitnessPal is free. You can get everything you need from the free version. You don't need to upgrade to the premium version in order to be able to log your calories. I use an app called Libro with my clients, my one-to-one clients. It's a bit more intuitive than MyFitnessPal, a bit easier to use, and it links into the nutrition software, the very expensive nutrition software that I use with my clients. But MyFitnessPal will do everything you need to do if you're doing this on your own. Now, there is a guide again on my website. You can go to bknutrition.com/MyFitnessPal, all one word. There's 5 tutorials in there to teach you how to set up and use MyFitnessPal like a professional, so you can add your own meals in, you can make sure that you can plan for the week, those sorts of things. So that's all there. Now, what I don't want to get people doing, and this is something I work with clients, you don't want to be logging the food you eat for the rest of your life. There are some people who do that and they like doing that, but that's completely fine if you do want to do that. However, what you can get into is this very obsessive behavior about how many calories you eat and how much calories is in food. What you really want to be getting is an idea of, right, that meal contains that many calories. And if you do that meal over and over again, you'll know that you can eat you can eat that much pasta, that much meat, that much sauce or whatever, and that is your calories for that meal. So you don't need to track that meal long term, because if you prepare it the same way every single time, you know that there's that many calories, so you don't need to track it. Eventually, what we want to get to is, while you're tracking everything in the short term, when we get to the long term, you're only tracking meals that are outside your normal intake. So say, for example, you always have the same breakfast, the same lunch and the same tea, and it's the snacks that you vary, or maybe an evening meal on the weekend. You would only need to log, in terms of on MyFitnessPal, that unusual meal or that unusual snack, because you will know that if you've eaten 1, 2, 3 meals of your normal stuff, you've already eaten, let's say, 1,200 calories, and you've got 600 left, and that's what you use to provide a bit of variance. So we don't want to be tracking food on the app all the time. We want to do it right at the beginning, so you understand your portion sizes and how much food is right for you to eat for fat loss. However, going forward long term, what we want you to get is understanding that this meal is right for me. If I prepare it this way, it's this is right for me, and I only need to then track the things that are outside of that normal behavior. So that gives you the clarity, but it also leads into the choice. So you're always choosing what you eat. Now, what diet companies like to do is to give you a list of foods that are banned, that you can't eat. The reason they do that is because those foods are normally quite high in calories. And so rather than explaining to you, well, you can have these foods if you want, however, you want to make sure you monitor how much you're having, because it's very easy to overeat on them, and they don't provide a lot of fiber, so they don't fill you up, and also they can be moreish, so you can start eating loads and loads, and then they don't give you the psychological factors to be able to cope with that, such as using techniques like break cues or riding the wave, which I talk about in my other videos. They don't do all that. It's much easier for them to say, that food, don't have it. And they don't explain to you why, they just say it's off limits because it's bad for you. And they give it a sin value or a points value or colour value, that sort of thing. So inherently you start to feel bad for eating those foods, and that's not the right way to go. You don't want to feel bad for eating any food. If you eat a high calorie food like ice cream or chocolate, it's important to know that it is high calorie, but it's also important to know that you can have it as long as you factor it into your day quite easily using your MyFitnessPal app or whatever app you want to use. But this is something that companies, again, don't tell you, because if they did, it would start to give you control and choice over what you're doing, and they would lose you as a customer eventually. Remember, their goal is to keep you as a customer forever, that you keep going up and down in weight loss. Explaining to you effective, simple techniques to control your weight and to lose weight is not in their best interest. Allegedly, in inverted commas, if listening on the podcast, because we don't want to get sued by anybody for saying things. So I'm just saying allegedly for that reason. Then we talk about choices. Always need to have choice in your diet. So if you know the calories that you need to have for your day, your calories for fat loss, and you have an app that you can log those foods that you have, you will know that you can have any single food you like. Now, there have been documented cases, and I'll talk about it in my book, and it's also on the website as well. There's people who've eaten McDonald's and lost weight. There's people who've eaten ice cream for most part of their diet and lost weight. People who eat Twinkies, which is like a thing in America with like, they're sort of called hostess cakes. They're basically just like fat and sugar. And all these people did these diet eating the majority of these foods just to prove a point that it was down to calories and not some magical food while you lost weight. Now, obviously you might have heard of or might have seen the documentary Super Size Me, where Morgan Spurlock had to go and have McDonald's every day, 3 times a day, and if they asked him if he wanted to supersize, he had to say yes and eat it all, and he obviously gained a ton of weight because those meals had a ton of calories in. There's another guy, I can't remember his name at the moment, he did do the sort of alternative to that, so that he ate McDonald's 2 to 3 times a day. I think he had a protein shake after a workout, but he followed a healthy lifestyle. He went to the gym, he exercised, he had some extra protein from protein shakes, but the majority of his food was from McDonald's. And this guy lost weight and improved his health markers. Why did he do it? Because he was within his calories. He used tracking software and to monitor his calorie intake. He made sure he was below his calorie intake, and he lost weight and his health markers improved. So you can do it. You can do it with junk food. The only problem is that junk food doesn't have a lot of fiber in it and it doesn't fill you up. So this is why we incorporate vegetables and fruit into our diets, because they help fill you up and they help keep you what's called satiated or your hunger at bay for the majority of the day. And this is why diet companies as well say, add loads of vegetables and stuff to your plate, and they call it free food. It's not essentially free food because it has calories in. However, it does fill you up, but they don't really explain that to you. They don't explain why they're doing that. They just say do it because it's healthy. So they give this sort of health halo to certain foods, and they do the same with things like avocados and nuts, both high calorie foods, but they say they're sort of green foods. They're unsinful to eat, and the problem is people do tend to overeat them, thinking that they're sort of this healthy thing. They're not going to gain fat from it. So. Also with choice, you want to understand that just because a diet worked for someone else, it's probably not going to work for you, or it might not work for you. Excuse me. So if you, for example, there's always a running joke about a Karen in the office who recommends a diet. There always is that person who said, oh, I've done this diet, it worked for me. You should do it, it's magical, you get these supplements, etc., etc. The diet worked for them because they had a calorie deficit which they maintained for a long period of time, and they lost weight. It's got nothing to do with the magic supplements they were having, or the tea they were having, or whatever supplement pill they were taking, detox pill. It's always going to be about the calorie deficit. Now, once you understand that it's only about a calorie deficit to lose weight and less calories than what you so you eat less calories than what you expend. That is what stimulates body fat to go from your body and to use as fuel. Once you understand that, you can then start to think about, right, it's my choice what I want to eat. I don't have to eat what some diet guru tells me. I can eat any food I like as long as it's within my calorie deficit amounts for the day. And this is something that a lot of people get caught up in, because they're struggling to lose weight for ages, and then someone in their office magically loses all this weight on this diet plan. And of course you want to know why. What have you done to lose weight? and they always say, oh yes, it's because it's a magic supplement, and then they try and sell you it because they're part of an MLM scheme, and if they sell you a certain green tea product or a certain fat loss tea product, they're going to get commission from it. So they do the weight loss diet themselves, and then they sell it to their mates. It's quite a common thing to happen. Don't fall for it. All you need is calorie calculator on my website, MyFitnessPal guide on my website, and there's also on my website a 21-day video sequence which you can watch called the Fat Loss Focus Challenge, which I go through all these things that you might want to consider when doing a fat loss diet. So that will help give you your choice in how you construct your diet. Never follow someone else's diet. It worked for them because of a calorie deficit and it fits their lifestyle. Another person's diet probably won't work for you unless they've got exactly the same lifestyle as you, which is unlikely. So always make your own decisions about what you're going to eat and when you're going to eat. Don't follow someone else's pre-programmed diet. Consistency. So the last C that you need to think about is consistency. Now, this might seem obvious, but you don't lose all your fat in one day. You don't gain all your fat in one day. It's something that accumulates over time, something I call compounding. And the compounding effects of doing the right things over and over again lead you to your weight loss, or so we said fat loss goals, because weight loss comes from fat loss. Weight. There's another video I've done about this, which is you can lose weight from a whole number of factors, but fat loss only comes from a calorie deficit. You need to consistently be in a calorie deficit for a long period of time in order for the body to use its body fat stores as fuel, and that's what makes you lose ultimately the weight that you want to lose, the body fat. I talk about voting for your leaner lifestyle, casting votes for your leaner lifestyle, and this is an analogy I use with a lot of people, and some of my clients benefit from using something called the vote sheet. I talk about the vote sheet in other videos. There's basically a two-column sheet. So in one column you have things I did today that helped me towards my goal, and then things I did today which didn't help me towards my goal, and you want to get more votes in the one column, so votes towards my goal. So for example, votes towards my goal would be something like, I took the stairs today instead of the lift, I chose a low calorie sweetener instead of sugar for my tea, I ate half a chocolate bar instead of a full chocolate bar with my cup of tea for lunch. Those sorts of things. Those are positive votes for how a leaner person would lead their life. So sometimes you can come across a situation, you go, I've got a choice here. How would a leaner person, or someone who is less heavy than me, leaner, slimmer, how would they approach this situation? So if you think like, how would that person approach this situation? Would they in fact have a grab bag pack of crisps, or would they have a smaller pack of crisps with their lunch? Because normally the smaller pack of crisps would probably offset your hunger and give you that crunchy, crispy feeling which you're after when you're having crisps. You don't need to have the grab bag. Normally, finishing the grab bag size is just the fact that you're mindlessly eating. So would a leaner person have the bigger cake or the smaller cake? Would they take the lift, or would they take the stairs? Would they go out for a 20-minute walk every day, or would they sit on their sofa for 20 minutes surfing Facebook? All these things, you've got to make the decisions in your life during the day as to, are you going to lead that leaner life, or are you going to just stay where you were? Now, the problem is that most of us will opt for the I'm going to stay as I was, because that's the easiest option to do. When we talk about building good habits only get built if they're the easier option to the undesirable or bad habit, which is the thing that is normally lethargy and not doing anything. Now, once you start doing your 20-minute walk every day, although it's not going to burn a ton of calories, what you will get is that 20-minute walk a day puts you in the mindset of a leaner person. So you think, oh, I've done my 20-minute walk a day, what else can I do? And this is the compounding effect. So if we prepare some of our meals for the day, if we make sure we're having a couple of fruit and veg a day, if you make sure we're having our 20-minute walk a day, all these things sort of are votes for that leaner person. And because you're doing all these votes, you then want to do more votes. Your mind focuses on all the things I can do for a leaner lifestyle. You're never going to get those effects, say just doing a 20-minute walk a day and then nothing else, will be very slow because you'll burn some calories, but it'd be very slow in terms of weight loss. But if you start thinking, right, what else can I do? What other things can I do? And because you're making all these votes, you see the results, you want those things to happen faster, so you start doing more of them, and before long you are shifting your course towards that leaner lifestyle, and that's the consistency. Most people, when they do a diet, will do it for about 7 days, see some weight loss because some water comes off and some volume of food comes off, so they start to see some weight loss. Then it starts to slow down and they get annoyed with themselves that things aren't happening faster, and then they tend to come off their diet because then the weight stops moving. The consistency of fat loss comes after about 10 to 15 days where you've made those choices and been in a calorie deficit for 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. Then you start seeing that ball rolling, gathering momentum, and the consistency and the votes for your leaner lifestyle. That's what gives you the long-term weight loss. So it's all right to have clarity and choice. If you don't do it again and again and again, you won't get the long-term weight loss. And let's turn it around the other side. So say if we have consistency of actions towards being more overweight. So if we eat a pizza one day, that's not going to make us overweight. If we eat a pizza every single day, and providing you're not in a calorie deficit because you're only eating one pizza for that day, it's highly likely you're going to gain body fat, but you're going to gain it over the long term. You won't gain it from one meal, but you will gain it from doing it every single day. And this is how people gain weight. And some people say to me, oh, how can people not know they're getting really fat? How can you not, do something about that? It's because that fat doesn't come over in one day. It comes from weeks and weeks and months and years of making those little decisions which ultimately add up to being overweight. So if we want to reverse that, we've got to start making little decisions towards being underweight or less heavy, whatever the term is for that. You want to be leaner, so you've got to start making votes to push you that way rather than the votes you're currently taking, which is pushing you the other way, which is being overweight. So you have to have consistency of your actions. Now, if you remember back to the beginning of the video, I talked about confusion, prison and frustration, and the 3 C's of clarity, choice and consistency will take you away from those 3, which I call the ultimate problem. So if you're always doing things the right way and you've got consistency, you won't be frustrated because you'll know why you're doing the right thing. You're doing it again and again. You're making your choices as to what you're doing. So you're not in a prison and you're not confused about what you're doing. So you're moving away from the problem towards the solution. And if you keep doing it over and over again, that is the success. That's the long-term weight loss achieved. And once you've got to your target weight loss, we've already got those systems built in place because you've done it consistently. It's a lot easier to stay there. Even if you have, like, say, a weekend wobble or you go on a holiday or something, because you've got the systems built, when you come back from that holiday or that weekend away, you're just straight back into your normal way of life. Most people, if they go on these diet plans by these companies, they go off because they have such a break from their diet plan, and because the diet plan is so restrictive, they come back and the thought of doing that plan again is so upsetting for them, they opt not to do it, or I'll do it next week, or I'll do it the week after, and then they're back into their bad habits. So your diet, which you want to construct around your lifestyle so that it fits what you're doing, you don't fit into it, that doing it consistently is a lot easier than being forced upon by a restrictive diet. So that's the 3 C's of effective long-term weight loss. I hope this video gave you some insight and was helpful, and maybe gave you some idea about where maybe you're going wrong, and maybe saw some holes in what you're doing. If you need further help, I do have a free test you can take online called the Diet Ecosystem. It's called How Good Is Your Diet? You can go on that, you can access it from my website, or if you want, just drop me a link in the note in the comments and I'll send you the link. That will assess all the areas of the essential things you need to get right in order to have long-term weight loss, and it will give you a free report with advice on how to manipulate your diet, how to change your lifestyle to make more success. So if you want that, just put it in the comments or go onto my website to find it. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please share it, and if you are not subscribed, please subscribe, and you'll get more awesome videos every couple of days. Okay, thanks for listening, and I will catch up with you next time.